Good morning and Happy New Year. It's nice to have our first Sunday service of this year. So we have a short Dharma talk this morning. I want to say a little bit about a small change that's happening in the Sangha very soon, and then share one or two ideas that I have about what I think might be good themes for the Sangha at this moment in the Sangha's life for this year. So, firstly, most of you know next weekend, this coming weekend, is the Martin Luther King Jr. weekend session. And according to our plan, on the Friday evening, when session begins, Chigan Roshi will lead a small ceremony to acknowledge Giun Sensei as a new senior Dharma teacher, and to acknowledge some folks as new junior Dharma teachers, which includes Muken, Koge Louise, Jishin, and myself. In total, there's a cohort of 9 of us who have been meeting over the past year as part of the Zen Studies Society Dharma Teacher Training Program. And we had planned to do this graduation ceremony, if you will, at Rohatsu, but Rohatsu was rather disrupted by COVID. So now all 9 of the people in that cohort are being recognized as junior Dharma teachers. And I want to make some comments about how I interpret this, what I think this means. One of the things I think this means is that each of us who's suddenly becoming a junior Dharma teacher will be leaning a little bit more of our time and attention and energy into that role, into the role of being a Dharma teacher, which will mean some practical things, such as perhaps we will be giving more Dharma talks. Perhaps we will be taking a little bit more of our time to prepare Dharma talks, which includes reading and research. And this is not meant as a complaint, but to do even a short talk like this, I do have to spend some time finding things in books and coordinating my ideas and thinking it over. Otherwise, the talk's not so good. I think we might also be leaning our time a little bit more in the direction of meeting with each other. The group of Dharma teacher trainees is going to continue to meet with each other to discuss various things, to study various things, and get sort of peer feedback about how that's all going. I also think we will be leaning a little bit more in the direction of making ourselves available for spontaneous inquiries and conversations with other students. I'm thinking particularly of the scene that exists at the end of our Thursday intro nights. Oftentimes we have people here for the first time. Sometimes they want to talk to a monk, and maybe they want to talk to a junior Dharma teacher. So I just think you're going to see myself and Muken and the others spending a little less time like fussing with the details of how each chair is put away and the orientation of each cushion, and a little more time just being available for questions, being available for conversation, if something is coming up for any of the people, especially who are here relatively new to the place and the practice. And I think, I think you'll see us trying to take a slightly more supervisory role. I don't love that word, but I think it means what it means. You know what I mean. So maybe a little less time with Muken and myself being officers, a little more time trying to train other people to be officers and focusing on that. A little less time actually cleaning the bathrooms and a little more time floating around during cleaning periods and checking on what's going on and trying to offer a little bit of feedback, a little bit of instruction about, how does the form for this activity go? I do care about preserving the form, and our community has a very rich form, and I don't want to glide over this point. Sometimes the form seems like a distraction. Sometimes it seems just extra to the heart of the practice. For me, preserving the form is so valuable because that is what persists over time. That is what keeps the practice going from generation to generation for thousands of years. it's easy to create a community that has no form. That's easy to set up, but that doesn't last so long. So we try to pass on the little traditions, the little details, the richness of the nuance of the form to each other. And I think the junior Dharma teachers may spend a little bit more time trying to deepen the knowledge of the form amongst the Sangha. Perhaps, we will see. So what does this mean for everybody else? I think part of what this means is a broadening structure of responsibility. We will be actively looking for Sangha members who want to take on a little more responsibility in various ways. You already know that every 6 months or so, I look for folks who are willing to take on the officer roles for the next 6-month period. And we can talk about that during tea today for the next half of the year. But there are lots of other things that people can help out with. For example, can anybody commit to attending one specific night of the week each week and learning how to host that night so that if Muken and I are both not at the temple for Wednesday night, there's someone else that we know we can look to, who knows what to do, who knows what's going on, and they can be the ambassador for that night. And I know I'm not saying these things in a vacuum. I know 90% of you in the room already have jobs like this and are already pitching in some substantial way. So I'm just talking about, leaning more in that direction. And in this note, I wanted to reread to you a piece of Chigan Roshi's New Year's message for the Sangha. It is possible that not all of you read that email in detail. And there's a piece of his vision of the training paradigm that I think is exactly what I'm talking about. So this is Chigan Roshi's words. About 10 years ago, I had an interesting conversation with Sogen Victor Hori, professor at McGill University, now retired, and the author of Zend, the beautiful collection of capping phrases for koan practice. Sogen Zenji spent many years in the Japanese monastery system and has published scholarly articles on Japanese Rinzai monastic training. One important insight I gained from our conversation was that formal Rinzai Zen training is fundamentally based on a multi-layered group of practitioners who mutually polish one another. Sogen further clarified that traditional Rinzai training is challenging to achieve unless such a layered group exists. The expansion into a multi-generational Sangha deeply enriches everyone within the group. The longer we practice, the more we realize that everyone and everything can be our teachers. We mutually benefit from each other's presence, embodiment, and aspiration. The polishing works. So one of the ways I think about this little transition in Sangha life is Muken and I and the others in the training program, we're just moving one tiny notch into a new layer of the Sangha, and actually a layer that the Sangha hasn't had in my memory. And perhaps some of you will do the same thing over the course of the year. Some of you will decide, hey, I would like to move one tiny notch into a new layer in Sangha responsibility. So please imagine this in your minds from time to time, that we have all these layers. We have senior teachers. We have people who are here for their very first morning service. We have people who have been here for many years and know how to do many things. And all of these layers inform each other. We need them all. And in each layer, you can always look for one little extra thing to learn. If you know nothing, you come for the first time and you try to learn one thing. If you know all but one of the officer roles, but you've never been Tenzo, you think about, well, maybe I could learn that last role. And also, I wish to repeat something Chigan Roshi said when he took the mountain seat as our third abbot. He said, I paraphrase highly, but he is now the leader. Muken and I become junior Dharma teachers, but everyone else keeps us in line, right? Meaning this very sincerely. If you see any of us doing anything that seems clearly wrong, say so. Come to us and say, I don't know about that. And so all of the layers of the Sangha, we look out for each other. Obviously the teaching layers, they help guide everybody. But everybody who's not in a teaching layer, in any other layer of practice, from one day to thousands of days, you keep the teachers in line. So there's this old Japanese saying about Zen training: trees in a grove grow straight. We go in the right direction when we go together as a group. So speaking of new junior things, probably most of you know that Maeve and myself are expecting a baby in late April. And this will, of course, mean a fairly massive change in my involvement in the Sangha for some time. The Shoboji Sangha is very fortunate that Muken is here in the temple, in the room, and has agreed to take over 100% of my role for at least 3 months while I disappear into the mysteries of fatherhood and trying to figure all that out. And also I'm very happy to say that between now and then, Muken and I will be working together very regularly so that he is thoroughly familiar with all the backstage runnings of the place and ready to step up, ready to go when I become largely unavailable. And then I wanted to just sort of foreshadow a couple of new things we're doing this year that I'm excited about. So between the period of February's Parinirvana session and March's March-on session, we're going to do a little program where we host morning Zazen on Zoom every single day. And this is about 3 weeks. This is about a 21-day run between those 2 weekend sessions. And there is a widely known but completely mythological idea in the popular culture that it takes 21 days to establish a new habit. So even though there's no truth to this 21-day idea, this 3 weeks gives us a chance for anyone who wants to set the habit, sort of etch the groove in their mind of meditating every day. It will be an option for that. And for someone like myself, who wants to sort of find out what that consistency is like, it will be a chance to do that as well. So I invite any and all of you to join us in that little endeavor. I think it will be enriching. I'm looking forward to it. Another thing we're doing new this year is we're doing a couple of Intro to Zen days at Shoboji. That's going to be June 2nd and July 21st. We're offering 1-day introductions to our practice, modeled a little bit after the Intro to Zen weekends at DBZ. So we're running a whole day. We're introducing folks to all of the major elements of our formal practice life. And I'm hoping that this will be a nice stepping stone for people who've come to the temple once or a few times and they want to have a somewhat bigger orientation to what's going on before they try doing, say, a weekend session or doing maybe a full-length session at DBZ. So I hope it makes a little springboard to help get from day one to, sort of a new level of involvement. Okay, those are more administrative things. Continuing in the vein of looking ahead to the rest of the year, let me say a little bit about something that I think might be a worthwhile theme for the Sangha at this point in the Sangha's life. And for me, opening up the theme starts with a memory about college days. So I'm interested in swing dancing. I'm a swing and blues social dancer in my free time. And I started doing swing dancing lessons really in college. And after a while, one of our instructors commented to some of us during a class, the people who actually get good are the people who go through a series of lessons in a group. The people who show up with a group of friends and they keep doing lessons for a while, they mature together. And I think this is relevant also to our practice. I want to read for you from a passage in the Samyutta Nikaya. So this is a little excerpt from one of the Pali scriptures as translated by Bhikkhu Bodhi. So this is a section which he has entitled Good Friendship. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling among the Sakyans where there was a town of the Sakyans named Nagaraka. Then the venerable Ananda approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down on one side and said, "Venerable Sir, this is half of the spiritual life. That is, good friendship, good companionship, good comradeship." The Buddha replied, "Not so, Ananda, not so. This is the entire spiritual life, Ananda. Good friendship, good companionship, good comradeship. When a monk has a good friend, a good companion, a good comrade, it is to be expected that they will develop and cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path." And then I'd like to add a little bit of Bhikkhu Bodhi's commentary on that passage. Bhikkhu Bodhi says, "This passage throws a different spotlight on the path than we are accustomed to hear in standard Buddhist rhetoric. While we are often told that the practice of the Buddhist path depends entirely on personal effort, this sutta emphasizes the importance of spiritual friendship. The Buddha declares that spiritual friendship is not merely half the spiritual life, but the whole of it. For the endeavor to attain spiritual perfection is not purely solitary, but occurs in dependence on close personal ties. Spiritual friendship gives the practice of the Dhamma an inescapably human dimension that welds the body of Buddhist practitioners into a community united both vertically by the relationship of teacher to student and horizontally by friendships among peers treading a shared path." So in my reading, I can almost hear Bhikkhu Bodhi talking about the same multi-layered Sangha that Shigan Roshi was talking about. So reflecting on this idea personally, I know that I deeply value my own Zen friends, which in my life is a small group of people who are, most of them roughly my age and roughly my training age, in that we share similar training experiences. And I'm so glad that I have a few of these people that I can call up and talk to, compare notes with. And I hope that you can think of those people for yourselves. I hope that you already have these friends and are able to reach out to them. And if you don't, look around the Sangha, those people here physically today, those people not here physically today. Who is it that's got a similar interest to you in this practice? Who is it that's got a similar set of training experiences, practice experiences? Find those people, hook elbows with them, go along together. There's another really good quotation on this that came to me by way of our brother Sokyu. He was attending a talk that David Loy was giving. David Loy is sort of a famous speaker on the topic of eco-dharma, contemporary living. And somebody asked David Loy, in the face of the enormous, unimaginable calamity of climate catastrophe, what can one person do? And David Loy responded, stop being one person. So yeah, one person can't maybe do much, you might imagine, but we aren't just one person. So, a couple of comments. You already know, I don't have to tell you, that we're each able to practice Zazen longer and with more focus in a group than when we are alone. Every time we have informal tea on Thursday night, someone says this out loud. And you already know that you're more likely to show up for something if you think some of your friends are going to be there. And I think it's readily apparent in this Sangha right now that the dedicated cadre of regular Sangha members genuinely enjoys seeing each other. Our informal social time on Thursdays and Sundays and other times is very lively. People laugh, people chat, people hug, people greet each other, people bow. And this is wonderful. I don't have to tell you this. over the past few years, this Sangha has grown as a friendly, welcoming, sincere group of practitioners. And on purpose in my mind, this is one of my missions for this place. I want this temple to be a place where people can be genuine with each other, where we can relate to each other earnestly and connect as human beings. And I don't want this to be a space where people feel like they have to put on airs or present any kind of curated, idealized version of themselves or compete with anybody else about who's cooler or who's hotter or who's more fashionable. That's not what this temple is about, even though it can seem like a lot of the outside world on the sidewalk is about that. We're also not just here for the purpose of becoming buddies. The temple is a place for sincere Zen practice, amidst a welcoming community of human beings who support each other as spiritual friends. And I'm not saying that this isn't working already. This is already working already in a wonderful, beautiful way. And I want to express a vast gratitude to those of you who have practiced here regularly over the past 5 years and who have quietly and unassumingly worked alongside me to cultivate this atmosphere. It's wonderful. So, think about the people around you who could become your spiritual friends. Get to know those people. Try to listen honestly to them. Try to help each other out. Go ahead and text each other and encourage each other to show up for events together. It's more fun. And go ahead and get together outside the temple. The little groups of friends that gather around each other, those are the groups that are going to stick with the practice. Those are the groups that are going to cheerfully and effortlessly motivate each other to go a little further, to do a little more, right? And in this way, the practice becomes fun. It becomes human. It becomes life-affirming, joyful, vibrant. So having said all these things, I want to close by sharing just a little imagination that's been stuck in my head the last couple of weeks for no good reason. I've been reflecting on this theme of spiritual friendship, on this theme of the reality, the fact that we are motivated to do more and to exert ourselves more when we're side by side with people we respect and like. And I've had this vision looking forward to the end of the year, to Rohatsu week. And the vision, this imagination of sitting later and later into the night during Rohatsu, and the joy that's there doing it with people that you want to be there with people who are sitting next to you, sitting with you, sharing this activity. So, maybe you can join me in envisioning and realizing each day this fun of practice, the joy of going a little further together. So let's take that spirit into this year of the Dragon 2024, and I think it will be a good year.